The hail came in at 0317, shipboard time, and it was addressed to no one. That was the first thing I noticed. The Vaethari survey vessel, a mid-mast diplomatic tender, coalition registry, all the correct running lights, had been broadcasting its standard contact protocol for 11 minutes before I flagged it to Commander Reth. The signal was tight beam, aimed at our position, and it was addressed to Unidentified Sensor Phenomenon, Vaethari Outer Boundary Survey Zone 4. Not a ship. Not a species. A ghost on their scope that they had decided, with characteristic Vaethari precision, to attempt contact with anyway. I had served 3 deep survey postings before the Ardent Meridian. I knew what Vaethari diplomatic protocol looked like from the outside, the methodical sequencing, the classification preamble, the exact 11-second pause between transmission cycles that their doctrine required. I had intercepted enough of their open channel traffic to know that the Coalition did not hail ghosts. If they were hailing us, they knew something was there. They just didn't know what. Commander Reth appeared at my station 40 seconds after I sent the flag. She read the intercept twice, set it down on my console, and said, in the flat tone she used when a thing had already been decided above both of us, "Decloak order is live. Fleet authorization, 30 minutes ago. We've been waiting for them to make first contact." I looked at her. "They just did," she said, and walked back to her chair. The HSV Ardent Meridian was a cruciform cathedral ship, 800 meters at her longest axis, and she had been sitting in stealth inside Vaethari sovereign space for 19 days. Not in their lanes. Not near their stations. Tucked in the electromagnetic shadow of a gas giant's third ring belt, running cold, watching. Fleet had wanted the Vaethari to take the first step. Fleet had wanted to know what the Coalition would do when its survey sweep found an anomaly it couldn't explain. The answer, apparently, was this: 11 minutes of precise, patient contact protocol addressed to a sensor ghost. I opened the response channel. Vaethari survey tender, registry designation covenant of measured returns. This is Senior Signals Officer Vaskin aboard the Terran cruiser HSV Ardent Meridian. We have received your hail. Stand by for visual confirmation. Decloak in 30 seconds. 30 seconds of silence on the channel. I counted them. Then the Ardent Meridian shed her stealth envelope. I know what it looks like from outside. I've seen the recordings. A cruciform cathedral ship coming out of a full stealth field doesn't decloak so much as arrive. One moment the space is empty. The next, 800 meters of armored hull is simply present, lit from within by engine glow, the 4 great arms of her frame catching the gas giant's amber light along panel lines that run the length of each section. The recordings never quite capture the scale. You have to understand that the Ardent Meridian was not a large ship by Terran standards. She was a mid-class survey cruiser. She was, for us, ordinary. What came back on the channel was not ordinary. The first sound was a partial transmission, less than a second, then a hard cut to carrier tone. Then silence for 4 seconds. Then a new voice, a different register than the one that had been running the contact protocol. Older. Senior. Terran vessel. Stand by. Classification in progress. I logged the timestamp. 0319:44. I set the channel to record and leaned back in my seat and waited. The Vaethari Coalition had been classifying species for, by their own records, 600 years. Every known intelligence in this arm of the galaxy existed somewhere in their matrix. Threat tier, contact tier, technological index, biological survey flag, diplomatic standing. The matrix was not a simple thing. It was their primary instrument of foreign policy, the foundation of every treaty they had signed, the basis of every decision about which species to approach, which to avoid, and which to watch. They were, in the most literal sense, a civilization built on the act of categorization. To be unclassified by the Vaethari was not merely to be unknown. It was to exist outside the structure by which they understood the universe. The silence stretched to 30 seconds. I watched my display. The carrier tone held steady. No data traffic on any adjacent frequency. They had shut down their outbound channels while the classification ran. That was unusual. Vaethari diplomatic vessels ran open outbound traffic as a matter of doctrine. It was how the Coalition tracked its own people in the field. Shutting it down meant the senior attaché aboard that Tender had made a command decision to keep whatever was happening off the record. 45 seconds. Commander Retha's voice from behind me. Quiet. Vaskin. Classification standard response window. 14 seconds. 45 and counting. She didn't say anything else. Neither did I. At 1 minute and 8 seconds, the channel reopened. Terran vessel Ardent Meridian. The senior voice again. Something in it had changed. Not much, but I was trained to hear small things. A flatness that hadn't been there before. We are running secondary classification protocol. Please confirm, is your vessel a military asset? I glanced at Reth. She tilted her head fractionally. I answered, the HSV Ardent Meridian is a Terran deep survey cruiser. She carries survey and communications equipment. She also carries weapons systems rated for fleet engagement. Both designations are accurate. Another pause. Shorter this time. Please confirm, does your vessel operate independently or as part of a larger formation? I looked at Reth again. She was still in her chair, hands folded in her lap, watching the forward display with an expression I could not read. The Ardent Meridian operates as part of Terran Fleet Command's Outer Boundary Survey Group, I said. I am not authorized to provide information about formation composition. Understood. The flatness in the voice had deepened. Please stand by. Senior Attaché Vaethari Coalition requests a direct channel to your commanding officer. Reth stood up and walked to my station. She took the secondary handset. This is Commander Adisa Reth, commanding the Ardent Meridian. Senior Attaché, I'm listening. The voice that came back was controlled. Methodical. But underneath the control, working against it the way a current works against a man standing waist-deep in a river, was something I can only describe as a kind of structured discomfort. As though the attaché was a very good machine that had been asked to process an input it had no register for, and was managing the gap through sheer discipline. Commander Reth. I will speak plainly. Our classification system has returned an incomplete result for your vessel and, by inference, for your civilization. This has not occurred in 600 years of Coalition survey operations. I require you to understand that I am not using incomplete loosely. I do not mean that your classification is partial or provisional. I mean that the system returned no result, no threat tier, no contact tier, no technological index, no biological survey flag. The fields are empty. The system is functioning. The fields are empty. Reth was quiet for a moment. I understand, she said. I am not certain you do, Commander. Our matrix contains 12,417 classified civilizations. It has subcategories for species that no longer exist, for civilizations we have encountered only through artifact, for intelligence types we have no biological framework to describe. It has, if you will, a category for everything, including things we cannot explain. He paused. Your vessel is in that category and is not in that category. We are attempting to run tertiary protocol, and I need you to understand that we have never run tertiary protocol. It exists on paper. It has never been used. Reth said, take the time you need. Another silence. Longer. I watched the gas giant's amber light move across the Ardent Meridian's hull on the external feed, the great cruciform arms, the cathedral spires of her sensor array, the gun emplacements that sat along her ventral ridge with the quiet patience of things that had never needed to announce themselves. She looked, in that light, like something that belonged here. Like something that had always been here, just out of the scan range of anyone looking. I thought about what the V3 attaché had said. 12,417 civilizations. A category for everything, including the inexplicable. We were not in the inexplicable category. We were not in any category. We were the gap itself. At 7 minutes and 40 seconds after the channel had reopened, Vaethari Coalition came back. Commander Reth. His voice was different now. Not broken, nothing as dramatic as that. But the river had won. The current was visible. Tertiary protocol has also returned an empty result. I have no precedent for this conversation. Coalition doctrine in this situation requires me to request a formal suspension of proceedings, pending consultation with the Oversight Directorate. Reth said nothing for a moment. That's the first time that's happened, she asked. In 600 years of recorded Coalition operations, he said, yes. All right. Her voice was even. Not triumphant. Not soft. Just steady. We'll hold position while you consult. We are not going anywhere. Yes. Thank you, Commander. The channel closed. I sat with the silence for a while. The ardent meridian held position above the gas giant's rings, running warm now, lit by amber and engine glow, entirely visible, entirely present, and entirely without a file. 314 crew aboard this ship. 57 ships in the survey group she belonged to, sitting just past the edge of V3 scan range, waiting. A civilization that had been reaching into the dark for 200 years, cataloguing and mapping and building, and had apparently built something that no one system had a column for. I don't know what the V3 Directorate decided, in the end. That conversation happened above my station's pay grade, in the weeks and months that followed. What I know is what I was there for, the 7 minutes and 40 seconds during which the most organized minds in this arm of the galaxy ran every framework they had at a single Terran survey cruiser and came back empty. We didn't fire a shot. We didn't have to. We just decloaked and answered their questions honestly, and waited while they discovered that the universe had a shape they hadn't accounted for. The ardent meridian held position for 6 more hours. No further transmissions from the V3 tender. When we finally received the Directorate's opening communication, formal, measured, the structure of a civilization reassembling itself, it was addressed not to a sensor ghost and not to a classification tier. It was addressed to us by name. That, more than anything, is what I remember. Not the silence. Not the 7 minutes. Not even the attaché's voice, working against the current. Just that, the moment they stopped trying to find the column we fit in, and started writing a new one. We were still in it when they sent that message. We are still in it now.